because of traumatic brain injury and the exposure to repetitive blast injury. It's again, I've seen friends who were older than me that when I didn't make it, the first time. So it was about 10 years, but like a few friends I knew that I saw significant changes in their personalities in a negative way after about 10 years. And it's interesting because it's the admiral of NSW, right, of the SEAL teams. They have undiagnosed traumatic brain injuries, and they're leading, right? And I'm not saying they're all fucked up, but it does affect executive functioning and decision making and all the other stuff that goes along with repetitive blast, endocrine stuff. So we have everybody in that entire community that's dealing with some level of the effects and consequences of traumatic brain injury.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We got a special guest today, former Navy SEAL Rick Andstrom. How's it going?
Awesome, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. We did a Drinking Bros. 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I can't keep track of what day it is. I know that if I'm in this building, it's a weekday, and that's pretty much the end of it. So let's get into your history a little bit before we get into some of the things we're going to talk about today. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in north of Houston, a place called Kingwood.
Kingwood.
Yeah. I was born in Minnesota, but came down here when I was 5.
Why?
Mom got divorced and remarried and brought my brother and sister and I down to Houston to get away from my dad, I think.
What was Houston like back in the day?
I mean, Houston was a shithole back in the day. I've tried not to go back as much as possible, and but I've understood. I mean, it had its cool places when I was growing up. I lived in a suburb north of it called Kingwood, but Houston itself, it had cool little pockets, but it's just an unzoned area. So you're driving through strip clubs and ghettos and nice areas, all kind of intermixed.
I don't know much about Houston except for what do you call it? The Woodlands, I guess, is pretty nice.
Kingwood is the original Woodlands.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like just a bunch of farm area back in the day. There's like a bunch of stuff there now, and it
was fucking crazy.
Great.
It was like a little pocket. Okay, I'll just give you an example. I mean, it was Texas through and through around us, but this little suburban pocket. Back in 1992, I think. You remember David Letterman? Remember the top 10 countdown that he had? He did the top 10 snobbiest high schools in the United States. Beverly Hills was number 1, and Kingwood was number 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
but I grew up lower fucking middle. I mean, I grew up with a single mom and, drove a 1976 Ford Grand Torino that I bought for $500.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Did you sit on your front porch and yell at Asian people?
I don't think there were any Asian people there.
Oh, yeah.
And ironically, we had one kid in my high school class of like 600 people. Maybe it might have been one more at the end of it. But the only black kid in the class that they imported to paid his family to come there to play football. And ironically, his name was Trey White. So that was pretty funny.
I mean, he needed some street cred, I guess.
Yeah, I had to go to the suburbs. Yeah.
So grew up in Houston. What'd you do in high school?
I did the quintessential thing that a 6'2" guy would do. I did gymnastics. So
what do you mean gymnastics?
I was on the high school gymnastics team.
So I've never gone to a high school that had a gymnastics team.
Kingwood. Yeah, I mean, it had a diving team, adult golf teams.
Dallas and Houston are weird cities in that regard. Like you're not going to find that shit in San Antonio, I wouldn't imagine.
I don't know.
But yeah, Dallas, like the same with Houston to some regard in the suburbs. And then Texas in general, sports are pretty serious here. All of them.
Hell yeah.
Like you've got travel soccer teams that start at like 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And you have to like get into the pipeline if you want to be a serious player later on. Otherwise, it's pretty difficult to get in. That's ridiculous.
I mean, Dripping Springs has a 7th grade shooting club.
Shooting like guns?
Yes.
Oh, that's dope.
No, it's fucking crazy.
What are they training kids for the Olympics or something?
No, it's like skeet shooting type stuff.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
But
I can't skeet shoot.
Bring you to the gym and we'll teach you to skeet shoot.
My problem is I'm just so used to point shooting
that
lead shooting like that doesn't make any sense to me with a shotgun.
A few of the drills we have, so the reason Another buddy of mine that was a SEAL lives here in Dripping Springs. I grew up with him.
What's his name?
Scott Kanan.
I don't think I know him. I actually might know him.
But he was on. He knew a guy that was on the system, our conflict kinetics system that we use at Mercury, and he was shooting with all of our drills. And there's a lot of like scatter drills and eye tracking and ambushing type stuff. He went out and he's not even a skeet shooter with an AR-15 or an M4. He was shooting skeet and hitting the break aparts with an M4.
So with an M4, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the system works, man.
Yeah, my problem is that, like, I understand trapping and tracking and stuff like that, but so after I can trap after I see a couple fly, I just know where it's going to be and I just sit there and shoot, and I can hit them that way. But that's not the point, right? The point is to be good at tracking, in my opinion.
Well, here's the thing: anything outside of your visual field of 50 degrees, right? Or 50%, excuse me, of your visual field, the saccade of your eye movements can no longer track it, right? So if it's going too fast, you have to learn how to ambush, and your eye is going to continually check back in, right, to be able to ambush and hit that whenever it's at that point.
So it's like some combination of trapping and tracking?
Yep.
That's weird. I didn't know that. I don't know anything about that. So I should probably learn how to do it just for funs. I don't really see myself being a bird hunter necessarily.
Yeah.
I just don't care enough to do that, and cows are easy to kill.
Yeah, that's a good
Just
point.
walk up and shoot them right in the face. They don't even see it coming too. No. I've never been bird hunting before though, but it's, trap shooting seems pretty fun.
Yeah. You didn't grow up like shooting everything?
Just rifles.
Yeah.
Not shotguns so much. I remember I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was 6 or 7 years old. My brother's 2.5, 3 years older than me. And we would be in my grandpa's backyard. They had a huge piece of property. We'd be in the backyard shooting a 22 at a tree, unsupervised.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I learned how to shoot.
That's how I grew up.
Luckily, my dad and him and my other grandfather were all in the military, so I didn't learn stupid shit, which is, we can talk about that too, I guess. You probably dealt with it less than I did, but a lot of people come into the military with really bad habits, shooting wise, people that have shot before.
Yeah.
And you got to I took, so I had, I got an expert infantry badge, and then we deploy, come back, and then we do EIB again. I'm a cadre this time, and I'm training my squad up for it. And I had all three of the dudes, or my team rather, all three of my dudes were very inexperienced shooters. And I'm like, perfect. I could because
teach them.
It's so easy to teach somebody to, especially to shoot from 3 firing positions on a flat surface. You could teach anybody to do that.
Yeah.
Like literally anybody can learn how to fire a weapon, in my opinion.
100%.
So, and that's one of the things you do, which we'll get into here in a few. But so you're a high school gymnast.
Yep.
And then the military.
Yeah. The reason I did gymnastics is because I got into martial arts in middle school. I saw Rambo.
Like tumbling and stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did all the things, rings and high bar and parallel bars and all that stuff. I like the floor the best, but the reason I got into it was to help my martial arts.
The floor. So you're like doing backflips and shit?
I do a backflip. I'm 55. Every year on my birthday, I do a standing backflip. You can look on my Instagram or Facebook. Every year, November 14th, I do a standing backflip.
Yeah, at no point in my life have I even attempted to do a backflip.
Yeah. That was just the one thing I kept on.
Yeah, fair enough. Not the rings, though, because your shoulders would probably explode at this point.
I can barely put my arms above my head.
Yeah.
So,
so you leave, you graduate, did you go right into the Navy after high school?
Yeah, it's the interesting story again. I did. And it took me 10 years, but 3 attempts over those 10 years to make it through buds. And that was kind of the part I think I might have mentioned on the last podcast, but where it took that between my second and third time, me really developing my mental game. And, with the physical part, it was easy for me. Sure. And it was the having stress fractures and a partially torn meniscus and, a partially torn quadricep going through buds. Right. And it was like, I just kept going to medical and kept washing out. It wasn't until I realized that everybody fucking who makes it through buds is injured. In probably a large capacity. And when I finally made it through, after doing a lot of the mindfulness, meditation, visualizations, all these different things before my third time, when I went back, buds wasn't easy, but it was very doable. Because I could chunk it. I was more present in the moment. And I graduated with the same injuries in +1 that I had the fucking first 2 times I went through.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's like a lot of really interesting things about the human brain and body. Women are actually quite a bit more complex than we are. The way that their bodies interface with the child, especially in the early years. So the mother's, this is fucking crazy, but the mother's body can tell if the baby is nutrient deficient in certain nutrients based on the physical contact to the nipple.
Okay.
And then it'll start producing more of that nutrient for the baby.
That's hot.
That's fucked up. That like it's like some kind of robot bullshit.
It's crazy. That's really cool.
But even everybody's bodies, the way that we produce DMT to dream, and also to you can debate what the purpose is biologically of it, but near-death experiences also, your brain just floods with DMT. Yep. A lot of people think that it's a prep for transition into whatever's next. Yep. Who knows, right? Maybe it's just a self-defense mechanism. But also one of the other things is that people that are going to do difficult things should know is that your body is kind of designed to protect and heal itself to some degree, and you can activate some of these things. So, for example, when you're in pain, the anticipation of relief from the pain will make your body produce natural analgesics that'll treat that pain, right? Yeah. So when you're in a stressful or painful situation or whatever it is, cold, hot, whatever, the anticipation of relief from that thing will, you can even do it as a mantra, like you have some kind of emotional distress, and we have the option to catastrophize, which is what most people do these days, and make it part of their identity, and I'm a victim for the rest of my life. Or you could say, in a week, probably going to be fine. Yeah, man. So I'm going to think about that for a minute, and then your somatic system will relax. Really happens like that. So you've got a lot of control. We think that the mind controls the body, and to some degree that's true, but the inverse is also true, because if you are in a bad mood and you force yourself to watch comedy and physically smile and put your shoulders back, those two actions specifically will make your body produce more serotonin.
I think the mind is. I think the I think the body and words or thoughts. I think those are actions of the mind. Yeah. So I think again, what you're talking about. I just did a year-long advanced meditation program discussing all of that, and the people who were allowed to do it or accepted in the program had to have a mystical experience with psychedelics to kind of show them during that meditation, kind of to your point, that we can kind of, like with DMT, we can kind of achieve these things outside of psychedelics, right? But having that reference point at the top of the mountain and what that DMT experience is like, or that mystical experience, then we have a reference point to how we can train. Yeah. Do you remember Rage Against the Machine?
They rage for the machine now.
Really? Yeah. So you remember the album cover, the Buddhist monk on fire? Mm-hmm. So do you know the story behind that?
No, I don't.
Okay. So that was a protest to the Vietnam War. But
the guy that self-immolated.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of 27 Buddhist monks that did that.
Was that in New York?
No, I think it was in Vietnam or somewhere.
There was a guy in New York that did it sometime in the 70s. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah. But 27 of them. And they prepared. I know the one guy that's on the album cover. I think it was for a month. He trained his mind to be able to sit there stoically and not be attached to that pain. So that is the extreme example that our mind is absolutely has the ability to, to kind of detach itself or disassociate or change the relationship with that pain and not be, like you said, kind of, the ego is can really get attached.
Well, I think I think there's a misunderstanding, because we say the word dissociate, and what we mean when we say it, for most people, I don't want to assume what anybody else is thinking, but when I think of it, I think of dissociating the mind from the body. I don't think the mind and the body are separate things. To me, those are both physical things, and the self is something that's non-physical, right? Yeah. So
I think the brain and body are the same.
The brain and body
the mind
same.
is.
The mind is the self, whatever you are. So we think of our brain as something else, but it's not. That's just part of the meat sack that we're walking around in. 100%. So and it's chemicals and neurons and electricity for the most part, right? Just stuffed into a bunch of fat. But I think when we think of dissociation, we're thinking about interrupting the brain and the body, but that doesn't make any sense. That's not even possible, frankly, right? It's the wrong way to think about it. The right way to think about it is that, and I can prove this right now scientifically, that you are not your body, right? And the way I can prove it is that every 2 to 10 years, depending on your level of activity, the kind of food you eat, and what blah blah blah, and environmental factors. Every atom in your body, not cell, atom. Every atom in your body is different. Your brain, your hair, your teeth, your eyes. It's all, nothing is the same.
Yep.
After, for somebody like us that exercises and eats well, eats a lot of protein, it's like maybe 5 years at the outset. So every 5 years, you're a completely new physical person. Being, right? Yep. So that can't be you.
Yep.
Right. So you know that it's not. So, the question is what is, and then how can I tap into that? Because if I'm going to spend all this time managing, healing, training, conditioning, whatever, my physical body, what am I doing for this other part that's driving the whole goddamn thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's my biggest thing, man. That is my biggest thing, is like we spend so much time on looking at external things, right? Extrinsic things to either feed our own happiness, to feed our whatever in life. But it's in my opinion, it's the mind that's the strongest thing, and it controls all else, in a good way. Not controls, but it's I talked about the non-judgmental thinking stuff last time. But with me, when I was training myself, it was about a 4-month period to where I started becoming aware of my thoughts and the shit I was talking about others and myself and situations in life. And it was like, once I became aware of it, I'd be like, hey, motherfucker. Hey, old Rick, awesome. You've served me well your entire life. Go ahead and get in the back of the bus, motherfucker, because the true Rick's driving now, and I had to have those conversations with myself. And, I still have moments, but for the most part, I think I'm a pretty non-judgmental dude. And I think it's served me well. It's allowed me to see people for who they are. Not even for who they are. That sounds like a judgment. But I'm saying it's just to observe and especially for fucking just talking with people. It's you can realize people are pretty fucking interesting.
They are, yeah. And I think, we're in a constant battle against tribalism in a lot of ways, because the brain is wired for efficiency. I don't think this is a negative thing. It's a positive thing. It grounds you, and then your job is to overcome it to some degree, right? Yeah. So gravity grounds you, but we built airplanes and now we can fly. In the same way, this tribalism is the result of, it's not about hating other people. It is that your brain is a very complex machine that determines between threats and benefits. That's the purpose of it, right? And then, the mind is something entirely different, but you still have to manage the brain. So patterns are the best way to do that, both social and physical patterns, whether it's sight, smell, whatever. And to make it more efficient, our brain builds shortcuts. And it does this also with social behavior. So when we're talking about the healing journey, as it were, especially for people that have gone through traumatic experiences, or not even necessarily traumatic experiences, but prolonged exposure to heightened levels of stress, I think is probably worse than there's this trope of some dude holding his buddy as he bleeds out, and that's the thing that haunts him for the rest of his life. But most people that have post-traumatic stress, that's not what it is. Yeah. I've been at a 10 for so long. Yeah. I don't know how to exist at a 0 anymore, because I should be able to go from 0 to -4, 0 to 10. Right. Yep. Like, you don't want to get too depressed, but you want to be somewhere. Your baseline should be something like something near 0, from -2 to +2. If you're a curmudgeon or a fucking, one of those people that are pinging all the time. But we think of these things this way, and the heightened stress and everything, and it's about kind of bringing ourselves back into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And re-engaging in this stuff. And I think one of the things. I'm really big into Adlerian psychology. I think that Freud was a lunatic. I mean, I appreciate the fact that he did a lot of cocaine, but aside from that, I'm not a huge fan. He taught people to be career victims. Yeah. Like, I've got to spend the rest of my life figuring out what's wrong with me, and it's probably somebody else's fault. Whereas Adler says, this is your work to do.
Fuck yeah.
Right. Your job is to be a net benefit to society, and you can't do that if you're dragging your ass around whining about shit all the time. Yeah. So, there's a number of ways that you can go about doing that stuff, and I think one of the most important from Adler's perspective is that you have to. There's a couple of steps that are really important before you can move on to the latter steps. So Adler would say that you need to eliminate private logic. Private logic is something that only you believe about yourself. typically, right? Like and this is something that our community deals with a lot. It stems from not being able to reconnect in society, or endocrine disruption, or the moral injury of survivor's guilt, primarily, stuff like that. Like, I don't deserve to be here, and as such, I have no value. It's like, well, your children think you have value. The people that you work with think you have value. Like, anybody that you communicate with on a regular basis thinks you have value. Otherwise, they don't communicate with you. Yeah. And you're the one that's choosing to isolate, right?
Judging.
Right. So that's private logic. That's logic that only belongs. That's what Adler calls it. It only belongs to you, and it's something that's not empirically true, right? If you look at like Aristotle's organon from the universal affirmative and universal negative, and then the particular affirmative and negative. This is a particular affirmative for you, but only in your head. You're reading it as a particular affirmative. It's only a particular negative in reality. And then he recommends using creativity to reshape your mind. We call it positive reframing, right? Okay. And one of the best ways, I think, to illustrate this is in a political discourse part, because I think it shows the fundamentals of how it actually works. So I don't even know what your politics are, but I guess you could say I hate the government, right? And I don't think it should even exist in the form that it does right now, but it does, so we'll deal with it. But one of the hottest debated topics over the last 40 years in American politics is healthcare. And somebody on the left would say, I think that we should have universal or free healthcare. I'm like, okay, like, alarm bells are going off in my head. Nothing's for free. That's a nonsense statement, right? But let's back off for a second. I want to take this person. I use this example a lot, so people are probably tired of hearing it, but I think it's important to hammer it home. What this person is actually saying is that in the richest country in the history of the world, it might be unethical to tell people they can be as healthy as they can afford to be when the government is taking 40% of their money, charging them property tax on shit they already own for the rest of their life, stuff like that, right? It's probably unethical that they're reaching into our wallets and that we can't get decent health care. Yeah. Right. I think I would agree with that, actually. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid statement. So if I can back off of my tribalism a little bit and positive reframe, as Adler calls it, and meet this person at the point of agreement, now we have some talking to do.
I like that.
Right. And this is something that and then the third thing is to find positive social interest. That is to say, serve your community, which is what we're built to do. That's the reason we built all this shit. Yeah. Like, men go out and build walls to keep the dragons out. Yeah. Right. That's the entirety of civilization is only about that. We're biologically programmed to do that stuff. And then to strive for personal significance as well, to be the best you can be at whatever you're doing. And the final thing is to live in the present. I don't think you can do that without accomplishing these other things, right? So it's like a pretty clear roadmap.
How come?
Because if I'm not actively engaged in the things that I'm designed to do.
I get what you're saying. You said you can't do those other things if you're not present. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that you can't live in the present unless you're doing these other things.
Okay.
If you haven't tackled the lies you tell yourself, right? If you haven't learned how to see the world in the positive light that it is, yeah. And if you haven't learned if you haven't found your purpose specifically, and if you haven't found the motivation to strive for excellence in that purpose, then I don't think it's possible to live in the moment, because you always will have anxiety about the future or remorse about the past, and that is no way to live. That's no way to live, right? You're basically a scab, right? You're a scab. You're healing permanently. That's not what we're meant to do.
Yeah, that's good shit. I like that.
So you go. We got pretty deep there for a second.
No, I like that.
You went to the Navy. And we talked about it on Drinking Bros. You can go see that whole story over there. But it took you a while to get there. And then as a result, you were probably quite a bit mentally stronger than some of the dudes who were just too dumb to quit, which is a big thing. Like, most of my friends who are Navy SEALs are too dumb to quit. And then they get smarter, and as they get older, smarter is not the right word. They weren't stupid before. They just got you get more emotionally mature right? And you're like, damn, this sucks.
You hope.
Then you realize it sucks. And you're like, fuck, I can't believe I did that shit.
Yeah.
But for some people that are going into it, that are already a little bit ahead emotional EQ wise, it can be pretty tough, right?
Yeah,
but I think it makes you
kind of
tougher.
the flip flop too. I've seen because of traumatic brain injury and the exposure to repetitive blast injury. It's again, I've seen friends who were older than me that when I didn't make it, the first time. So it was about 10 years, but like a few friends I knew that I saw significant changes in their personalities in a negative way after about 10 years. And it's interesting because it's the admiral of NSW, right, of the SEAL teams. They have undiagnosed traumatic brain injuries. And they're leading, right? And I'm not saying they're all fucked up, but it does affect executive functioning and decision making and all the other stuff that goes along with repetitive blast, and endocrine stuff. So we have everybody in that entire community that's dealing with some level of the effects and consequences of traumatic brain injury.
Yeah,
and luckily they're starting to be a little more open to it.
Not great.
Yeah.
We call it, I guess, I don't remember who coined the phrase, but it's operator syndrome.
Yeah. It's a huge thing. I've read the whole thing and lived it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the repetition exposure to head injuries like that over time. It doesn't matter if any of them are major, by the way. So it does matter if you get obviously major impacts. So second impact syndrome is real and it will fuck your brain up. Yeah. Like if you get hit hard in the head and then within the next 2 weeks or so you get hit hard in the head again, you need to take about a year off to heal your brain. It sucks, but that's the way it is, man. Yeah. That's why I like Tua Tagovailoa, the football player for the Dolphins. What the fuck is he thinking? Yeah, when he's 50, he's not going to be operational.
Yeah, those millions ain't going to do him.
No. I mean, not unless he does some serious work in the meantime. But
the interesting part, though, Dan, with what you're talking about with concussion type, football type injuries or getting your head hit against something, is that whole contra coup effect. It bruises a region of the brain, right? And so that those areas might be deficits, and you got to kind of figure that shit out. Yeah. With repetitive blast, it doesn't discriminate. The secondary tertiary was it's the entire fucking. Yep. So that's why guys have the pituitary, the endocrine issues and the executive function, memory, and cognitive.
Mine was fucked up, man. I mean, I remember I got rocked a couple of times, twice that I remember that were IEDs that were then a certain distance, 50 feet or something like that. I mean, I was in a truck, but I was a gunner both times. Yeah. So you just catch the full face full of it, unfortunately. Never got hit directly. I got some spall and shrapnel from time to time and stuff like that. You just pick like metal out of your skin, but nobody cares about that shit. As a matter of fact, who knows how it even got in my body over there, Jesus Christ. But yeah, you get a little bit of that. But when I got out of the military there was a 2-year period where to be honest, I still don't remember all of it. Just kind of coasting. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not doing much. And then finally I get the VA to take what I'm saying seriously, which is odd because it was in Oakland, California, and the doctor was like 80 years old. A lot of VAs, I don't know if people have had the same experience, but all the VAs I've ever been to, half the doctors are just getting started and the other half are on their way out. Yeah, right? And
probably aren't doing their continuing education as they should.
But I finally got this guy to give me all the endocrine tests, and I've got like my prolactin is off the charts, which is something that your brain. Prolactin happens when your pituitary gland gets fucked up, and it effectively kills testosterone and free testosterone. My T level was like 160. I think. Me too.
Something like 170.
So finally got on a low dose at the beginning because it's the fucking VA and they don't know what they're doing, right? Yeah. And it's no offense to the VA, they haven't done this work. Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. There's not even ordinary civilian primary care doctors don't know what they're doing in this regard. So if you're going to address this, don't go to them. Don't even go to them for a referral because most of the time they're not going to know what they're doing. You got to find a men's health clinic.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, so finally, I start even at the lower dose. It was like a cloud lifts out of my brain, right? Mm-hmm. And you start to heal yourself again. Now, that was only the first part of it. for me. So cleaning up the diet was a big thing, right? Like replacing the cells, the bad cells with good cells, right?
Right.
Getting the plastics and metal out of my body. I hate, there's two foods that you can eat that are good at both of these things, by the way. For plastics, for some reason, there's an enzyme in okra, which is gross. By the way, I grew up in the South eating fried okra, but it's weird and gross. That'll pull plastics out of your body, and then cilantro will pull metals out of your heavy metals. Yeah. So if you have like a green shake or something every day, put a little bit of cilantro in there, and it'll pull the metals out of your body. Stuff like that can help, but it still doesn't fix the brain problem.
Right.
And it's really funny. We've had some pretty crude treatments for this stuff over the years. One of them was electroshock therapy. Yeah. And they were kind of on the right track. They were wrong in the application, but they were on the right track that the brain needed that energy. Yeah. Right. So you start getting these, I don't even know what you would call it, just a wide array impact on your head over and over again. Just bomb right there, bomb right there, bomb right there. And for somebody that's in the stack, that breacher's blowing shit up, you're just catching it in the face every single time. Yeah. Sometimes running into it as it's blowing up. You know what I mean? So you're catching that a lot, and it starts rocking your brain. And it does have a full effect, but there's usually disparate effects as well. And this is what chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, is. So your brain gets hit either in a point or area region, and it stops functioning as it is. And because your brain is wired for efficiency, your brain will stop sending energy there. Yeah. And it's where you get these dark spots on the MRI, on the CAT scan, right? And people think, oh, your brain's just dead. And it's one of the reasons we couldn't diagnose this shit before. Like, we don't know what that is. We don't know what that is or how to heal it. Well, you can take psilocybin, as a matter of fact, and send energy back into that region now. Yep. Like it's weird that it took us so long to figure it out.
Something that's been around so long.
Yeah, from like World War II, maybe not, but in Vietnam, everybody was
doing something,
tripping their ass off all the time. You would think somebody would have figured this out.
Well, I feel a lot better. I can think better.
Yeah, but this is something that you've dealt with quite a bit. What was it like for you?
As far as like with TBI type stuff? Yeah. It was again, it was about probably 10 years. I've been in the teams probably 10, 12 years. And I just started noticing everything, just darkness in me, and testosterone. That was an issue. Memory became a big issue. It was, and I've said this a few times, but it was just, I felt like a shell of a man that I had. And luckily, there's a guy who lives here in Austin, Dr. Kirk Parsley. Have you heard of him? I know Kirk, yeah. Yeah. So he was the doctor out at Naval Special Warfare. At Warcom, yeah. He was out in Group 1 at the time. Oh, yeah, and he was a lieutenant. He was a new doctor, and he had this fucking revolutionary thing. And I remember I went into him and sat down. He was prepping the sleep, talking about the sleep thing. And he had this window in his office, and it was a beautiful mind thing going on, talking about how the endocrine and all the traumatic brain injury, all this other stuff.
Kirk's a very smart guy. He's been on the show a number of times and also has treated me personally in the past.
And
very smart dude.
But in the infancy, I remember asking him, I'm like, hey, is a lot of this just trying to get our testosterone levels back to normal? And he's like, absolutely. Yeah. And
I mean, it's kind of a regular, like we talk about, people have for about 15 or 20 years now, constantly invoked the phrase homeostasis, right? It was the biggest selling point for CBD back in the day. Like, CBD promotes homeostasis. That was one of the biggest taglines for it. And to some degrees, it helps a little bit, but only if you're deficient in the things that it's working with, right? It's not the cure-all that everybody thought it was. It never is. Nothing ever is, right? Except for testosterone, which your body naturally produces, right? Yep. I mean, it's a regulator for almost everything else that's going on in your brain and body. And there's so many different pathways for it to get fucked up. Yeah. Head injury, pituitary, your gut. If your gut's fucked up, 96% of all your hormones, by the way, to include melatonin for sleep, serotonin for mood, all that stuff, oxytocin for emotion, all made in your gut. Okay. All of it, yeah. So if your gut's fucked up, which all of ours was, coming back, and it's usually the last thing that people like us figure out to treat as well. Yeah. So you got to treat the brain. You got to clean up your diet and lifestyle stuff. I'm not going to tell you not to drink, because I like drinking too. Yeah. But you got to, if you're going to do the one thing, right, you got to do all the other stuff. You got to learn to swim before you jump into the ocean. Right. Yeah. So you can't take multiple risks at the same time. I think that's a mistake. So clean up all the other stuff, eat the right foods, drink the right stuff, exercise, do what you need to do for your brain, and then drink. It's fine, right?
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Do the basics best.
Yeah, but the gut thing is the last thing. Gabrielle Lyon's really good with that.
Yeah.
She's got a whole program here in Texas, Houston and Dallas that deals with that stuff. But yeah, there's so many pathways for it to get fucked up. And I think that was one of the issues with getting it solved. But, and it's why it took somebody from the community like Kirk to get involved and start talking about all this stuff, to be honest.
Because he was a fucking revolution. I mean, the fact that he was getting all of the different types of vitamin D and fish oils and all these different things at Group 1, it was a big deal. And they were just, teaching us how to use it. And I remember that deployment, it helped out a lot. But you mentioned CBD, and it reminded me of this funny story probably about 7-8 years ago. I was up in Vancouver helping one of the doctors put on a psychedelic weekend for a member of the Senate and a 2-star admiral in the military, right? And I remember the guy from the Senate, he had just done 5-MeO-DMT, had the whole thing done, right? And we're sitting down there and his fucking mind is blown. And we're in the kitchen, sitting there around the kitchen island talking. And the guy from the Senate was like, hey, what happens if after a while, I start getting some anxiety or some of that stuff starts creeping back in my life or whatever? And the doctor looks at him and goes, well, if you're not opposed to it, CBD could be pretty good for you. And he starts going, you fucking kidding me? After what I just did, am I opposed to CBD?
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. Anyways, it reminded me of that story.
This episode of Citizen is brought to you by our title sponsor, Omaha Steaks. Best steaks in the business, the oldest butcher in America, America's original butcher since 1917. A family-owned company with 100 years of expertise in the meat industry. And look, they've got everything, mouth-watering burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and even desserts. They got some sides on there too. I feel about sides, but they have them. Grass-fed, grain-finished beef has more marbling for exceptional flavor and is the choice of steakhouses and professional chefs around the world. There's nothing quite like the unforgettable taste of a summer cookout. And as the summer heats up, the blazing hot sale is the perfect time to stock up and save on exceptional handcrafted flavor and convenience. Make your summer sizzle with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their blazing hot sale. And for an extra $45 off, use the promo code CITIZEN at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with the promo code CITIZEN at checkout. See site for details. And it's not just for you. It can be given as a gift as well. I've given a couple of gifts over the last couple of weeks of this. It's an easy stocking stuffer during the holidays, but even birthdays and all the things that come up during your life where you want to do something nice for somebody, for your dad, for the man in your life, or to make your wife's life easier by having a constant supply of meat coming to the house so she doesn't have to do all that grocery shopping, whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. Go to omahasteaks.com to get 50% off site-wide during their blazing hot sale. Use the promo code CITIZEN at checkout for an additional $45 off. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details. And a big thanks to our advertiser, Omaha Steaks. This episode is also brought to you by First Form, firstform.com/Drinking Bros, the best protein in the business. Protein is the building block of life, folks. I say it all the time. You replace every cell in your body over the course of 2 to 10 years, depending on how active you are, how much you eat, and how clean you eat. And if you're replacing it with garbage, you're going to be garbage. So make sure you're eating the best possible protein you can and supplementing with First Form. Don't forget about the micro factors. It's just a little simple pack. Open it up, dump it in your mouth hole, and feel better. They've got the liver detox, which is a great thing for people that like to drink or people who, just want to be healthier. And then they have all these other supplements. They've got great pre-workouts. They've got great protein in all the flavors. And then, of course, for people on the go like us, they have exceptional meat sticks, protein sticks, and a variety of different flavors. And then the level 1 protein bars in a variety of flavors as well. That we talk about this stuff all the time. They're great. So go to firstform.com/Drinking Bros. It's the best company in the world. You've seen us with Andy. You've seen the company. We love these guys. It's a very American company. So go support them and support us. Firstform.com/Drinking Bros. That's OneStPHORM.com/Drinking Bros. Yeah, I mean, it's if there's definitely uses, right?
Yeah.
We get into this we're in a microwave culture where people think, oh, this is going to solve all my problems now. It's like, well, no, I mean, some mix of things is going, just like anything else. There's 3 different macronutrients that you need to ingest to have a healthy diet. There's not one.
Yeah.
You can't just eat meat all the time. I don't care what anybody tells you.
Yeah.
You can't do it. I would love to, frankly. I would love to only eat meat and eggs all the time.
Yeah, good
but
ribeye.
unfortunately, but unfortunately, unless you have some kind of severe immunity problem, that's probably not going to work for you, right? So
Like an autoimmune type thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So for some people with autoimmune issues, a lot of times it'll help. Now, I would recommend just growing your own food, to be honest,
Yeah.
if you're able to, because if you go to Europe, that autoimmune shit you have doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
For the most part, but that's more of a problem of us, but not them. But
I've kind of accepted kind of intuitive eating, you know, as far as meats, fishes, root vegetables, regular vegetables, depending, you know, whatever it is. I mean, and some Sour Patch Kids on occasion, you know.
Yeah, from time to time, maybe a Skittle or 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you come back, or I'm sorry, not when you come back, but you're in on the West Coast when Kirk's doing his thing.
Yep.
So you kind of get introduced to it then.
Yeah.
And then what was it like for you after that? I mean,
Well, it started feeling better again. It wasn't he wasn't to the point where he could prescribe testosterone for people in the military. I don't remember if he recommended it to me or I just sought it off on my own. But there's a guy named Doc Bronner Hansberger. He was out in La Jolla, and he's like a naturopath doctor. I think that's what it was, naturopathic. But I went to him and started doing testosterone on my own. And that's when I started seeing some good physical and cognitive kind of results. You know, the other aspects of shit that the psychedelics helped. I mean, it was a good foundational level, like we were just talking about, kind of, you know, doing the basics the best, getting back to homeostasis on those other levels. But it was just the mental aspect, and you know that part needed to kind of be addressed, and it was.
Yeah, I always tell people, you know, and I'm not, I guess, intrinsically opposed to talk therapy. I don't think it's useful in any meaningful way unless you fix your hardware issue first. Though.
Yeah.
You get caught in that trap of emotional response and feedback if you don't. So for example, there's something about my past that's given me problems in my present.
Yeah.
And some people will tell you to ignore that shit. That's stupid. Obviously, ignoring and isolating is one extreme, and then dwelling on it forever is the other extreme. You don't want to do extreme stuff. It's not, unless it's sports, right? You want to do extreme sports, jump out of airplanes and shit. But you don't want to do the extreme part. You want to get the thing to do is probably somewhere in a more moderated fashion. So you're, again, back to your just understanding the mechanics of the stuff, how your brain works. It builds shortcuts to keep you safe, right? That's the point. So you see a certain pattern or image and it makes you feel anger or fear or hunger or whatever, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Well, it's not always correct. That's a problem. You know what I mean? Especially in our upper mammalian brain, it's quite a bit more sophisticated than the lower brain, which is just like food, danger. You know what I mean? Now we have quite a bit more context to consider, and our brains are still kind of evolving into it to some degree, but maybe they never will, because part of the purpose of that is to make you more mentally resilient. You know what I mean? Not a robot. It's to make you a thoughtful, resilient person. You know what I mean? So
use that energy elsewhere.
Yeah. So, you know, you have to recognize again, this is part of the private logic thing from Adlerian psychology, but you have to recognize the neural pathway that is incorrect. Think of it as for military people, think of it as you've drawn your range card, and you go back out there and you're like, yeah, actually that tree is 150, not 200 meters. Right. So I got to correct that now. You cannot continue. You can't move any farther down the road unless you've addressed the error. It's why math teachers make you show your work, so they can find exactly where the problem was when you get an error, and you can fix that error, and then everything flows forth from there. But if you build on a shaky foundation epistemologically, then you're fucked downrange, right? And it's the same thing with your social mind, right? If certain types of sounds or patterns or behavior patterns in other people invoke some like extreme response in you, that is something that you need to pay attention to, right? If you're in traffic and somebody driving slow in front of you makes you feel rage, that's something that you need to address, right? Like I have road rage. I think it's hilarious, to be honest. I'm just like, get the fuck out. I just think it's funny, right? It doesn't really actually make me mad.
If you're aware of it,
my girlfriend thinks I'm crazy.
If you're aware of it, though.
Yeah. Well, everybody, I think other drivers probably think I'm crazy too, because I'll be driving and just talking to her and we're laughing and I'm like, fucking get out of the way, you stupid bitch. And then go back to anyways. She's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I have fun. It's fun for me. But I would say like that's a really specific example that applies to a lot of people that you can actually do some work in.
I use driving as my own fucking mental toughness.
Yeah,
I use it literally to your point, what you're talking about. I make it a point to not be a dick while I'm driving. Yeah. And it took a while to retrain that, but it's just a training tool. I think the life and the world around us and the amount of driving we do, the world's our training ground, and we can address those things.
Yeah, I was thinking about it on the way over here. Actually, I've talked about this before to some degree, but a good example is somebody that's driving slow in front of you. I think that you can. This is a real opportunity for you to build some structure for stuff that actually matters, right? So like somebody's driving slow in front of you. I want you to wait to get angry until you see who they are, right? Just like wait until you can get up there and see who they are. And then you can, if you got to get angry then, right? But you're not going to.
Right.
And the reason is because you've created a standoff between yourself and the emotion. You've not put the emotion, not put the emotion away. You've felt it. Right. So you've done a couple of things. One, you've managed your emotion. Two, you've delayed gratification. And three, you've given that person, whether you realize it or not, the benefit of the doubt or the principle of charity. Right. So you've now like you're exercising these things that are really important in all the rest of your life. It's kind of silly to think about you're doing it in traffic to avoid road rage, but it's not even about avoiding road rage because who fucking cares about that? It's about
it's a training tool.
Using the ordinary in life to inform the extraordinary. So now when this emergency situation or extreme situation or dangerous situation happens, or chaos or whatever it is, or even an argument, right? Even a negotiation or something that's important that you get it right. Now you're calm and have your wits about you and have managed emotions and the other person doesn't, right? That is to some degree a superpower. And you can develop it on your own, right? I mean, this is something that you can choose to do.
You can be a puppet or not a puppet.
And repetition is what matters.
100%. It's all about reps. Something you were talking about earlier kind of really, it is interesting timing that you were talking about that with kind of patterns and all these different things. So, I've done the work, done psychedelics. I've been meditating for a long time. And the interesting part is you were talking about talk therapy. And I had never done it, right? But one thing I've noticed through a lot of the treatments and the retreats and the programs I've been involved with is there seems to be some level of childhood trauma, right? And we talked, I think, a little bit about that. The meditation program that I did for the last, it's about a year long, but the advanced part of it was the last 2 months. And it was interesting because usually with meditation, what I realized for me, that I was training myself to be present. And what I realized, I think it was almost like I was training myself to distract myself from inside, right? It was like be present with whatever I'm doing to not be anxious, to not be depressed, think about the future, all that stuff, right? But this meditation program is a Buddhist foundation one. It's 42 foundations. Talks about all the different feelings, all the different things that we think and feel and all this stuff. So the interesting part was the majority of this 42-minute meditation I did every day, I was supposed to pay attention to my thoughts and feelings.
Not ignore them.
Yeah,
it's not about suppression.
Right.
It's not, because otherwise just drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the same stupid shit.
Yep. And so what I started to see over time was all of these patterns, right? They would come subconscious patterns. First of all, the conscious ones, the things that would pop up and just pay attention to them and do these things. And then after a while, those things dissolve, right? And thoughts dissolve anyways. But over time, what I saw were these reoccurring patterns, and a lot of it was relationship patterns. And what I found out, first of all, through my Ibogaine journeys was there was a lot of things with my mom, trying to rescue her and save her. And I'm talking about like romantic relationships here. I could never save or rescue my mom because of the abuse that she was going through. But what I realized in my relationships outside of my ex, which is interesting, that's an interesting story. I think I was the only one, she was the only one I never had to rescue. And so I wasn't maybe fulfilled, whatever it was. But before that, and even after that, I realized I was trying to rescue people. I was trying to save people, right? From their victimhood or whatever it might be. But so what I started seeing with these subconscious thoughts of 5 or 6 weeks of 42 minutes a day was these reemerging patterns, right? And it was fucking amazing. And so I started doing that in coordination with talk therapy with one of the ladies, a lady named Hannah Zossman, who's a fucking amazing practitioner. She used to help out at the retreat. She was our ops girl, but she just started becoming a counselor and also doing EFT tap therapy. And she needed someone to help build some of her hours. So I was like, wow, the fucking timing of this is really good. So I was doing this, the tapping and the talk stuff.
You're talking about like tapping on your face and stuff?
Yeah, exactly, different areas in the body. And then depending on what you're kind of talking about, they'll tap into about, like the meridians and different stuff. And it's really effective, and it was pretty fucking emotional the first couple times I did it. But it was all these things in combination, it was different because it was less about me being distracted, and now it's addressing these things. And I've recently entered into a relationship where it's like two people on the same wavelength and two people that operate in the same frequencies, and it's just relieving.
Yeah, definitely will relax your somatic system quite a bit. What is it? So through all this meditation stuff, what would you say it means to be present? Because people say that, and it's kind of a platitude now. I don't think they know what the fuck they're talking about, to be honest.
So I did some speaking, and I'll give you a reference point to this, and it'll kind of make it. I did some public speaking for a finance company for a while, and I used to start out my talks with them. I said, listen, I'm going to talk right now for about the next 10 or 15 minutes. What I am going to ask all of you to do is while I'm talking, pay attention to me, right? And every time you catch yourself going, hey, what kind of fucking shoes is he wearing? Or, man, I got to take a piss, or I've got to go eat. Pay attention over the next 10 minutes how much you are distracted from actually what you are actually doing right then. Whatever you're doing, do it right then, right? In other words, if I'm talking to Dan right now, I'm fucking paying attention. I'm meditating while I'm talking to you while you're talking, because I want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
And all of that it's different. I've done a few podcasts or people. It's different because there's agendas and there's flow, and you kind of have to have these agendas and things in your head. But for me as the guest, I want to pay attention, and I use conversations as that thing. So like while I'm doing my coffee pour over in the morning, I'm training myself to literally do the concentric circles, right? Just to be present with, it's fucking amazing what you can, when you're really paying attention to what you're doing, whether it's washing dishes and seeing the way the soap bubbles move. It sounds weird, and it's like some foo-foo weird shit, but you are actually paying attention to what is going on in the world around you without being immersed in thought. Yeah. Talking in your head, right?
A good way to think about it is to try to use, I don't know what you guys call it in the Navy. We call it SEALs: stop, look, listen, smell.
Yep.
And it's about activating all your senses at one time in that moment, right? Yes. You stop, you look around, you listen for sounds, you smell for things that don't smell right. If you're tracking somebody, not to get gross, but human shit's a good way to track people. Yeah. And just smells in general, whether it's cordite in the air or something like that, could tell you a lot about what's happening in the area. I mean, that's, activating, I think, a way to distill that down for the individual user is to try to activate all 5 of your senses 100%. On like what you're precisely doing in the moment, right? And look, nobody's going to be able to do that 24 hours of every day. Yep. But you should be intentional about it.
But that's the second half of this, okay? Yeah. The awareness, the being present, the awareness, because most people don't even fucking realize they're doing that. And that's why when I do those talks with people, after about 10 or 15 minutes, literally people's mind, they're like, I had no idea how distracted I was and how incapable I was of just staying present.
And how much you're missing when you do that.
Yeah. You know so the second part of that, though, for me, right, and I'll speak for me, but I also understand that awareness and non-judgmental thinking are the two biggest indicators of mental well-being. And I forgot the study. I have it somewhere. And if you guys want to find it, I can find it and send it to you. But in my own life, it has been the fucking superpower, man. The awareness is a big thing, but the awareness without the ability to regulate and to modulate and to look at things openly from a perspective that, again, I don't really know. I don't really know what that person in front of me had going on. I don't know if they're just don't know how to drive. I don't know if they're old. I don't know if they fucking totaled a car getting hit by a fucking deer. No. Driving. And so they drive. A lot of people that aren't from here, they drive fast on these little country roads. They probably haven't totaled a fucking vehicle. I don't know. Maybe it's your grandpa that just isn't in a hurry to get anywhere. It doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, when we become puppets and we get pissed, there's karma in thoughts, right? It's not just in your actions. there's this thoughts and the actions or the words they create that same level of fucking. I don't know. I don't want to blow off all your all the listeners with hippy dippy shit, but there's some truth to it.
I mean, so you can find this principle in the posterior analytics from Aristotle's Organon. It's a collection of works on logic and reason, how logical and reasonable arguments work, from what it means for something to exist all the way to logical fallacies. It's the entire gamut, right? And in posterior analytics, one of the primary quotes is, "We think we understand something absolutely when we know its cause," right? Yeah. And this is why the awareness matters, right? Yep. So you can collect the data that exists. And then the next part, as you allude to, is the contextualizing of it, right? Mm-hmm. Does it make any sense for me to get mad and allow my day to be ruined because this other human being who has just as much right to be there as I do is performing in a way that's completely understandable? That's really, when you say it like that, it sounds fucking stupid, right?
Yeah, no, that was legit.
I mean, it sounds, if you need to remind, and I think, having some of these, you can call it a platitude, but having some of these quotes about this stuff to kind of bring you back into focus are pretty important. You know what I mean? You call it a mantra. I don't give a shit what you call it, but it's like, okay, I'm feeling anger right now. That's because of me, not because of that dude. You know 100%. What I mean? Like, and that's my work to do, as Adler would say. That's not for me to, I wouldn't say control it. It's for me to live in, experience it, and regulate, right? So something that, the screens for children are really fucking us up.
Oh yeah.
Our generation, to a lesser degree, mine and yours. I guess you're probably Gen X, like middle Gen X. I'm kind of I'm right on the line of Gen X and millennial. But when I was growing up, so I had both. I had no internet and then I had internet, right?
Yeah.
And so we still have some context for what it's like to disappear at 8 o'clock in the morning and show it back up. Else we get an ass beaten by the time the street lights are on, right? Exactly. Just unsupervised all the time. That's awesome. And there's no it does train you to, I guess, be present to some degree, right? Because you're just out doing stuff. Yeah. You're active, you know what I mean? And it requires your attention. You're not having a fake conversation with somebody as you're watching something. Yeah. You know what I mean? As you're distracted, all of your senses are kind of focused on one thing. Now, with all the distractions, the flashing lights and all this stuff, it's getting more and more difficult. And I can see my girl has a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I can see it. That you can tell the difference in attitude of a kid who's been on screens all day and is not, even just within the course of one day. You know what I mean? So I wonder and they're developing, right? I wonder what for us who grew up in a certain fashion and now we're exposed to that, it might actually be worse because we don't have the ability, nobody taught us to regulate that part. Yeah. It was like we'd never seen, it kind of reminds me of Joel Embiid, if anybody's a sports fan. He's a big ass basketball player that came from Africa. He had never seen sweets in his life. And he came to America and just started stuffing his face with everything and got fat when he was a rookie. And they're like, what the fuck, dude? He goes, I don't know. I'm just eating cake all day. So, our brains are just eating cake all day now and not getting any of the stuff that we needed to get. And look, I like watching TV and playing video games like anybody else, but that is dessert. Yeah. You have to eat your fucking dinner first. You know what I mean? Again, the same thing with the drinking thing. You got to do you have to do all the right stuff first, and then you can enjoy things, right? That's how all of life works. You work for a while, and then you go home and hang out, and sometimes you do cool shit on the weekends. You just gotta fucking start it, man. You can't live on vacation. I think we see these trust fund people or ultra rich people, and people who are just constantly. The ultra rich self-made person doesn't fall prey to this because they're high performers. Sure. But their children are fucked for the most part, right? Because they never have to. Your brain is not built to be on vacation. Yeah. And if it is, it's going to find some struggle. And if it doesn't exist out in the real world, you will turn the struggle in on yourself. Yeah. That's why all these fucking people are crazy. You know what I mean? You're pretty familiar with 75 Hard, I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Andy very well. Yep, I figured that. So my best friend Dan, he
He has done 75 hard about 14 times. His youngest son, or his oldest son right now, he's 18. He's doing it for the first time. He's doing it all over Instagram. But Dan knows the two dudes we were talking about before the show kicked off. Dan knows those guys real well. So he has done 150 hard. He has done 40 hard, and his phone ran out of fucking capacity, and he was like going to update it, and he forgot to do a selfie. And he had to start over at 40 or 50 days, 75 hard. So he lives that way. And I was fucking with him the other day, talking about drinking, He's never been a huge drinker, but I guess in between bouts of 75 hard, he'll sit down with his wife and he'll probably drink a few glasses of wine, maybe too many. And so I was like, Dan, hey, I was like, tell me the truth, brother. I was like, 75 hard. Do you just do that to fucking just get yourself off of drinking for a while? And he's like, yeah, there's probably some fucking truth to that. Yeah. But I was like, well, he does not drink. So,
yeah. Well, I wanted to circle back on something.
Yeah.
Well, one, I'm glad that you don't drink coffee like a Philistine out of a fucking coffee maker or something like that.
Yeah.
That shit drives me crazy. But when you say you said it a couple of times on Drinking Bros, and I didn't have the opportunity to kind of jump in on that, but you say non-judgmental thinking. What does that mean?
So what I'm in that I was. Thanks for bringing that back up, because I was going to. It's not about judging situations, not about judging whether it's safe to go across the street, or judging whether this person's out of harm, kind of like tribalism stuff.
Yeah.
Understanding those environments. To me, judgment is, again, your situation in life. People who can, I'll give you start with shit talking about other people, right? It's like, what the fuck, man? I use the mask one because I'm pretty apolitical, but I still didn't like the whole forcing people to wear masks and all that kind of stuff. I've worked in operating rooms and I understand that in sensitive, sterile environments, there's a certain part that helps with it, and it's building blah, blah, all the things, right? And so it was about looking at somebody else and going, look at that fat piece of fucking shit. Or look at that, what's that fucking person wearing the mask for? Or, God damn, you liberal fuck, or whatever it is, right? At the end of the day, you don't, unless you go talk to them. And I've had it happen a couple of times. I remember one of my friends, Jake, there was a judgment that was cast, and I said, and we had the opportunity to go talk to those person we got introduced to him maybe 20, 30 minutes later while we were hanging out, and we came to find out that it had nothing. The thought that he had, he was so fucking wrong about it, but he formed this thing in his head, that this judgment about somebody else that he was wrong about. And it's unhealthy, right? So, and the other one is,
it's bad data.
It's bad, right? That's my point. It's
like
bad data.
You're getting in your own way by assuming, like there's some assumptions that are safe based on stuff, and assumptions belong in a different pocket than facts do, right?
Yeah, and there's data. There's physiological things that happen from certain thoughts, right? So you're creating these cascade of fucking data, physiological, dopamine, whatever, all different stuff. You can know more about this stuff than I do. I'm just saying there's physiological, chemical reactions that happen with these things. But
if you think some guy's an asshole, your stellate ganglion gets activated.
Yes.
And your fight or flight mechanism is on.
Yeah, build cortisol.
It's ready now, right? Your cortisol spikes and you're ready to fight. You're ready to fight or argue.
And you're fucking probably wrong.
Yeah, probably, right?
So you would look what you're doing to your overall stress and hormones and all these things, right?
And being able to regulate that, by the way, is this. It's recognizing that it's a possibility and having your cortisol and stellate ganglion and amygdala on standby.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And then you can turn it up. This is something, we'll get into this in a minute, but something that I really think we need to get in to the 17 to 25-year-old crowd joining the military and the special operations community at some point, and teach them how to do this, right?
Yes.
Because I think being able to go from the process of taking yourself from 0 or 2 up to a 5 or 6 when you go on a deployment, so you can go from 6 to 10 real quick.
Yep.
And then bringing yourself back down when you're in a civilian environment is, one, it's doable, and it's something that we're making literally no effort to train people how to do.
Yeah.
At any rate, keep going, please.
No, so it's again about judgment about other people, and you're usually wrong. Judgment about your own yourself. The self-sabotaging talk. There's nothing harmful or helpful about it at all.
Yeah.
It's again, there can be a level of awareness, like maybe I should do this, right? Maybe I can work towards this. There's good thoughts. There's contemplative thinking that is very helpful, but it's when it's the self-deprecating type of harmful things. Yeah. And the other one's about your own situation in life. Like, man, where am I at in my life? All these different shit. So it's about judgment about yourself, others, and your own circumstances is really what I've kind of tried to work on. If I can do something about it, I'll fucking do it, right? as opposed to just dwelling on it and creating these repetitive loops. Kind of like people, a lot of people don't even realize they're fucking tapping their legs and stuff like that. It's the same thing with repetitive thoughts, and those things those loops can create the physiological, the dumps of chemicals.
Yeah, and then just even in the process of thinking, the way that you build logic inside of your own head, that becomes a really big problem, right? For a lot of reasons. One, you're letting in garbage data. Two, you're having a somatic response to that data, probably incorrect data, and now you've set up for failure, and you're much less resilient to platitudes or scapegoating or something called thought terminating cliches, where we say, like, you're in an argument with somebody and say, "Oh, that's just racist." And you're like, "Nah, there's nothing racist about what I said. It's race is involved, but I didn't say anything that's racist."
Right.
You're saying that because you don't want to continue this argument. You want to try to win the argument and get out of it now. But that's nonsense, right? And we individually become much more prone to dismissing stuff. And I tell people this all the time. What's up, Doc?
What's up, buddy?
Hi. What are you doing? We got a little visitor in here. We become much more susceptible to things like that, to be dismissive of ideas. And then if you're just because you don't agree with somebody's solution to a problem doesn't mean that the problem doesn't exist.
Right.
Right.
100%.
And if you allow your brain to terminate the thought at that point, then here's what's going to happen. One, you're worse for it personally, right? But two, somebody who you disagree with is going to recognize that problem and solve it in a way that you don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is what we mean when we say being an active participant in life instead of just, getting on Twitter and bitching all day or whatever people do these days. It's nonsense. Nothing particularly present about that. So, I want to, before we get out of here, we got to go in a sec, but you talked about Kirk back at I think he eventually ended up at Warcom doing consulting on this stuff. Yep. And some units here and there talking about it and doing some stuff. What I don't understand is how the larger DoD apparatus is something I'm really concerned about, that we're not taking all this information we know and teaching it to 17 to 19-year-olds. Yeah. When I showed up to the 82nd Airborne, they taught me how to take care of all my equipment, how to make sure my rifle is serviceable, all this stuff. And it was I would get my ass lit the fuck up if I did not do that. Yeah. Right. But as far as taking care of my body, like nutrition, which I know right now, I don't know if you know Robert Irvine, the celebrity chef, big bicep guy. Him and Cologne Lopez, the former SEAC, are working to revamp the DoD food program right now. So that's cool. Great. So that's great. But how to take care of your body, the right kinds of exercising. We did PT, sure, but the right kinds, like performative combat PT, and then not just mental health. I think mental health is like just trying to remain static, like stasis, right? Yep. You just want to be okay. No, we want to be the best, motherfucker. We want to be the best. So it's like, why aren't we teaching 17 to 19-year-olds entering the military, and at a even greater level, a more advanced level, 20 to 25-year-olds who are entering the special operations community, about hormones and real mental toughness, not just grinning and bearing it like we say, suck it up. That's not mental toughness.
Staying fucking neutral, man.
Yeah. About being in a chaotic situation and not choosing to stay calm, but staying calm because you've trained to be calm. Right. Those are way different things. Because if you are choosing to be calm, it's requiring your energy. Yep. You're using your energy that should be used to absorb all the senses around you, to stay calm instead of doing your fucking job. It's like
that's our entire gym, Dan.
Yeah,
that's exactly what
I'm saying. It's like that. I know. We'll talk. That's why I'm kind of leading into. So right now, through these selection processes, we're selecting for something that we could create. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is a literal force multiplier. If we put this information out into the world, and not just the information, because it's not enough, you have to have the practical exercises for these people and it's going to be different for each dude to some degree. People learn in different ways. It's not going to be completely different for each dude, but there's going to be a couple of different ways that you have to teach it so that everybody can absorb
skills.
It. Right? Yeah. And it's very doable. It's not particularly expensive, frankly. Right. It's not expensive. Like even the hardware solutions for fixing hormones and stuff like that and fixing your brain, it's not very expensive. I mean, it's pennies if you think about it, right? Especially if you're buying in bulk at the DoD level for 2 million people at a time. Not that everybody would be on stuff, but you're buying at government levels, things like hormone replacement therapy and stuff like that. It's going to cost the government like $50 to $100 a month per guy. To do this.
And the cost of the performance deficits that people have, the issues that they have,
all the downstream shit, right? Like the cost that the VA have right now would shrink drastically if we would do this stuff. And then of course the on-field performance or in combat performance goes way up, right? So it's this mixture of the right diet and exercise, the right chemicals in your body. When I say chemicals, I mean natural, like your hormones, all this stuff, your brain health, and then your actual mental toughness, which is the ability to delay gratification, to live in an emotion without letting it overwhelm you, things like that. Naturally, because of repetition, you can do all these things, and then you add in the combat movements and critical thought. This is, we don't need a fucking serum to make Captain America. We know the solution for this stuff, and we're doing, in my opinion, right now, at least at the government level, they're doing nothing at all to do this stuff, except for in very small pockets in a couple places. Now,
and those usually aren't even by complete doctrine. It's usually a leader or
it's
somebody
one
within.
guy. Like I don't know if you know General Donahue or not, but
I don't know him.
Former Delta commander. Now I don't even know what he was 18th Airborne's commander until recently. Now he's commanding somewhere else. But I'll say for a flag officer to be widely respected inside of the special operations community is very rare.
They're usually politicians after a while. He
is the most well-respected person that I've ever met in the military among the special operations community that's not a sergeant major or command master chief or whatever the fuck. He's doing a lot of stuff or trying to do a lot of stuff, pilot programs and whatnot. But for the most part, it's just small pockets here and there. But you have a company called Mercury Human Performance. It's actually right down the street here, and you guys are engaged in quite a bit of this stuff. There's yourself and DevGru guy. And I don't remember who the other guy is.
Chris Wilson's my partner. He's a former Army supply logistics officer. So, but he's it's pretty amazing seeing some of these guys that are working with us that are just normal dudes, But like Adam and I, with our backgrounds, we're trying to recreate some of the stress inoculation in a really healthy way through the system of drills that we have. That Conflict Connects around, again, has been around for 15 years. Started with a pro baseball player, right? And they used all these different types of human performance drills to help people with, like batting and pitching and catching, all these different things. And he was talking to a Delta guy. He was in North Carolina, and he was like, "Fuck, dude, we could use that shit in the military." And so they started developing the initial prototypes of the systems, these cognitive drills, decision-making drills, these drills that induce emotional demodulation, right? And learn to train to these things, learn to track your eyes, learn to be more lethal as a gunfighter, but also be more calm and resilient under pressure. And that's the biggest part about the entire system. It's fucking amazing. A lot of people don't even realize. People come in there because they want to fucking shoot better. Everyone wants to be cool and shoot better. But once we get them on the floor and they go through a class, they start to understand what separates the real people who know how to handle themselves in stressful and in conflict at a neutral, to stay neutral, so to speak, and to be efficient and lethal at the same time if it's necessary, but to make those right decisions, not just fucking shooting and everything. So it's it's also, there's a lot of vestibular type therapy type stuff. It's not meant to be that way, but it does do that. It's
well, I mean, so physical therapy makes you stronger. Right. That's the point. I mean, it's part of the healing process, but what you're doing is not healing the thing. You're making the other parts stronger to support the thing that's fucked up. Right.
And that's where you're talking about the sliding scale. People are real. Some people are fucking just more emotionally resilient than others. But most people, I can start out a class and say, listen, I'm going to challenge every one of you. Every one of you more than likely is going to emotionally demodulate at some point. You're going to be like, fuck, get pissed. You're going to quit in the middle of this because it's going to be frustrating because we're going to push you 10% past what you have the ability to do, right?
Intentionally.
Intentionally, absolutely. It's by design. It's about, it's retraining people's nervous system.
It's muscle failure.
Exactly.
Basically.
Muscle, but nervous system failure. And so we have to retrain that, like plus life speed. If you can only go a certain speed, some of the other things are like, it's speed, recoil management, and then accuracy, right? If we can, because it's like sprinting. You can't jog to learn how to sprint, right? You got to fucking sprint faster. So then eventually the accuracy starts building in, but you're retraining the nervous system to react faster and more appropriate for the situation. It's not just about shooting faster; it's about So it's good shit, man.
It's funny because we've tried a lot of stuff on this over the, and there's some good training in the military. Obviously, we have the best gunfighters in the fucking world. It's not even particularly close, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy how much better we could be.
Yeah.
To be honest, because we've tried a lot of stuff. Calm under pressure, so we set off arty sims while we're moving and shooting. It's like, all right, that's something, right?
Yeah.
Like you're creating delays and interruptions and distractions that force me to stay calm, right?
Yeah.
But if I actually learned the basics and then had repetition in the basics of what it really means to stay calm, because you don't need all that to do that stuff, right? That's the practical exercise. We haven't done the classwork yet on it, right? So it's like you have to shrink this stuff down. If you mentioned sports, if you're a baseball player and your swing is fucked up, you don't go to a home run derby to fix it.
Right.
You break the swing down into the elements,
Yeah.
right? And you get all the mechanics right, and then you put it back together.
You chunk it.
And then you take the full swing and you look at these days they've got the whole stickman tracker thing. I mean, they could tell everything about your swing now, but we can do this same thing, like teaching people the strategies for managing somatic responses to things before they get into the environment, then put them into the environment and test it.
Yep.
And then do our AAR. Hey, here's where you didn't do it right. Here's where you did it right. Right.
Yeah,
let's do it.
exactly.
Do these drills. All right, let's go do it again. Is something that is a lot more valuable than going to the range for the day.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've had everybody from Delta to DevGru to fucking GRS to SAD on this show. And I guarantee you, most, if not all of them, would say that you learn more dry firing than you do at a live fire range,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
You learn more with the mechanics in even without positive reinforcement, which is to say recoil, I guess, than you do afterwards. You just learn more. The mechanics matter. You have to get that stuff right. You may not be able to jog to learn how to sprint, but you got to learn how to fucking crawl before you can walk.
Yeah.
For sure, right? So, these things matter. And I'm glad that you're doing it. I hope this blows up and that more people get involved in it. Just ordinary civilians in our country should be trained for everything, in my opinion.
I mean, there's 40 of these already on military installations around the world.
You're talking about the system you have. Right?
Yeah. Ours is by far, I mean, you can ask Brian, the owner of Conflict Kinetics. He's seen what we put together. He said, this is the Taj Mahal of this type of system in gym, just because of how much we've built into it. I mean, we got panoramic 220s. We've got these long team trainer walls. We've got flat walls all over that they all interact. And we've got fucking badass monkey bars and rogue systems that we incorporate all the stressors into it. It's just it's a really cool gym.
I think this should be like infantry, AIT, and Marine School of Infantry. This is what
Marines are already using it.
Yeah, I think this should be the bulk of that training.
Believe it or not, they're all using it right now.
Okay.
We've kind of evolved past that, and that's I mean the fucking SOI is using it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if what Army infantry, but I mean all the big elements are using it, and even to some degree special operations. A lot of times we're too cool for it, but it's been interesting. All the CAG Delta guys or the Delta guys, a lot of DevGru dudes. We've had like fucking 7 SEALs come in there, and everyone is humbled.
That's the difference between, by the way, not to talk shit, but SEAL team, DevGru, and then Green Beret, Delta. There is they really believe that, God, what was it? Epictetus said, if you want to improve, you have to be willing to be thought foolish or something like that.
Yeah.
It's an old quote. It's like if it's training that they see a benefit in, they're doing it. They don't give a shit.
They will be exposed. They will no fear of being exposed.
Yeah, it is fucking. That's a different type of brain, and it's like we can select for that.
Yeah.
And they do through selection and OTC and stuff like that. But I really feel like we can build a lot of that too.
Yeah, you don't have to be sick to get better.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad to hear that it's getting more pervasive. So tell everybody, like, give me the elevator pitch on what the company does specifically.
I mean, we train people to be better. I don't know. I need to work on an elevator pitch, I guess. But we help people train to be able to respond versus react during conflict. And whether that's gunfighting, the guns we use just happen to be the tool, right? And to go back to your driving road rage, all of these things that we're training, the emotional modulation, the making the right decisions with this system. It's fucking fun as shit though too. I mean, just the drills themselves are awesome. You're going to become a badass lethal motherfucker on these systems really fast, and it translates to the live range. The cool part is these same things, and I talk about this. I mean, you can imagine just sitting here talking to me today. I still talk about this shit to every fucking person we have come through. You know, I feed some of this to a level that I meet them where they're at, you know, but I talk to them about the awareness and about how they, throughout this entire day while they're training, be aware of what's going on in your fucking head, because that's where it starts. Yeah. You know, and learn to, you know, all the things that they're doing. If they want to be effective and badass gunfighters, right? They need to be able to stop the cascade of the physical or the chemical dumps that are going to cause the cortisols, that are going to cause tunnel vision. That when somebody breaks into their house, right, and they're Mr. Cool Guy shooting steel their entire life, and they're awesome at the range, they can do all the mag changes without pressure and stress. The second there's a real threat of somebody shooting back at them, right, or the potential of harm on them, because somebody's harming you on a fucking flat range, right? If you can train to the real live person that might be in front of you that wants to harm you or your family, that's really what it comes down to, and people don't know how to do that. Yeah. You know, and so that's kind of what we're trying to help people make aware of.
Yeah, and the difference between responding, reacting is, I think, maybe some folks would say that's a banal distinction, but it's definitely not. I mean, think about the difference between responding or reacting to a loud noise and responding to a loud noise. I mean, you can picture it in your head right now, or your kid's upset or being a dick or something like that. Yeah. The difference between reacting to that or responding to it is, and by definition, it's quite a bit different. And the reason I brought that up is because these skills are not just for the battlefield. They will pour into every other part of your life. 100%. You know what I mean? Like emotional modulation, regulation, whatever you want to call it, is something that permeates everything else, right? Yeah. Like it informs everything else that happens in your life. And it will make you, in my opinion, it makes you a better person.
Yeah, it makes you a better person, a more content person, better in your relationships, a higher energy, you know, a higher frequency that people want to be around, and you like being around your own self. And that's really what it starts with, is just liking yourself, you know?
Well, tell everybody, we got to get out of here, but tell everybody where they can find you and find.
Yeah, mercuryhumanperformance.com. And it's located here in Dripping Springs, Texas, off of Fitzhugh. And, you know, we're on Instagram, and as well as, I don't know if we're on Facebook, but definitely on Instagram. And it's been pretty cool seeing some of the responses to that. So. What
do people do? They just go on the website and sign up for classes, or?
Yeah,
don't drop in probably.
I'm learning marketing fucking 101 right now. I'm like, I can actually talk some of the talk. I think I can just jumble my words together, but with all the ad campaigns, but absolutely go on the website, take a look at what we got, the offerings, and then explore classes. We're looking at a membership model right now, which a lot of people.
What would a membership model look like? Like you pay a fee a month and you get to come in X number of times or something?
You get to come in whenever you want. Okay. Right? And you can come in. So the cool
you just have like a list of, like a yoga studios have a list of classes. You can come into any of them.
Well, they can do that for sure, right? We have classes. We'll be running a couple classes a day, like gunfighter fundamentals or gunfighter, advanced gunfighting. But it's all the human performance aspect that we've been talking about. But the cool thing with the membership model is people go through one of those classes to build that foundation, right? And then they can come in and they'll have access to Adam, Dev Group Guy, or me, whatever. We'll be working there. They'll be given a certain amount of one-on-one time with us for privates that we can work with them on things that they need to work on, right? Or whatever they want to work on. But they have access to our gym. We've got a cold plunge there. We've got a fucking membership lounge. We're building out a bar. Ladies come in, drink, have wine, have some white wine, and then we teach them fun, pistol fundamentals. It's kind of a unique thing. They all think it's cute and cool. And it is kind of cool because it's a consequence-free environment. Yeah. So,
are you doing anything class-wise with the mental part of this?
All of it is.
Okay.
Every time the class, well, we are going to, so one of the things I'm going to be working on people is with the awareness and maybe even some breath work and the mindfulness, and take that a step further. But I've talked about all this stuff, not to the level that we're talking about today, but I do make people aware of these things during the class. And it's been surprising in a good way how interested and intrigued people are about this and how they want to learn more, especially like executives or these young entrepreneurs and business professionals. That's the part that's really intriguing them. It's the guns. It's cool.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, so we do this at the executive level all the time. Go to a fucking. My buddy runs Dream Racing in Vegas. It's at the Vegas Motor Speedway.
Oh,
It's
cool.
all the fastest cars you can imagine. You could just take laps in them, right?
Yep.
But some of these corporations will come in and spend $200,000-$400,000 in a day, letting their people do that.
Yep.
As like for stress and stuff like that, and then they'll take them into the conference room and have their team meeting and talk about managing stress and all this stuff. It's like, okay, that's fine, but something like what we're talking about here would be quite a bit better, to be honest.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's also, you're talking to people that have been in the most stressful situations that exist on this planet. We should do this. We should do a live version of this for them sometime.
Oh, yeah.
And let them listen to this conversation, because I think there's a lot of insight there. That's, again, it isn't about gunfighting. It makes you better at it for sure, but it's more about just being a whole person.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, that's the only reason. I mean, and again, you've talking to me enough now, last couple of times. I wouldn't have done this if it was just about gunfighting.
Yeah.
At all. That's not my purpose. So it's kind of the balancing,
Right.
the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming today.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Again, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, mercuryhumanperformance.com.
That's the best one, yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. And thanks again for coming. I appreciate the time. Everybody go check it out. We'll be doing more stuff in the future, I'm sure, because you're right there. And also, this is awesome. So thanks again for coming. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Dan.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.